Hi, Steve.
Hi, Jim.
Hey, can you think of a better way to start your year off right than starting your ear off right?
Take your ear off. No, I can't, Jim.
All right, then. And welcome once again to Two Guys Talking About Records, a vinyl community podcast where each week we two guys get together and, well, we talk about records. That's about the extent of it, right?
No, it's so simple for us,
It
Jim.
is. My name's Jim, and I own a record store.
And I'm Steve, a record collector.
Now, I'm noticing something, Steve. You don't have any records behind you today. What gives?
Isn't that sad? I know. I feel so at lost. My whole family were up in Breckenridge for the weekend and enjoying the snow covered mountains. They have the tree lighting ceremony. They have the race of the Santas and the big dog parade. So I mean, it's been packed with activities in Breckenridge.
Are you on the slopes?
Uh, I've pretty much realized that now I'm not at that point in life where my back just won't do it anymore. But I did go sledding, so that counts.
That does count. You're on the slopes at least
Yes,
one of them.
yes, I guess I was. Yes.
And I spent all that time in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and I could never ski. I couldn't do it. We tried downhill a couple times, couldn't do cross country. I just did not have that coordination. So I went inside and listened to records.
There we go. I loved it. I learned to ski in Iowa because Iowa is kind of where most people learn to ski at. Hey, let's go skiing. Let's go to Iowa. And so that's where I learned. But I skied in Minnesota, Michigan, but never in the big mountains here, and they are cool.
In
Yes,
Iowa, you've got to wait till the snow covers those big piles of corn.
yes, exactly.
Although I guess you could theoretically ski down a pile of corn. I didn't really think of it like
Yeah,
that, but
yeah, yeah.
never really
Oh,
know. Hey, before we get into it today, and today we're going to talk about the Rhino campaign, the Start Your Ear Off Right. I can't tell if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but man, they just seem to be just piling on to this every year with their January and their October, their Rocktober ones. It just they're getting some really good reissues.
they are. They're looking back, and there was so many of them though. So I guess you got to really pick and choose.
You're too much ear to start off
Yeah, too
right.
much here. Yeah, yeah.
Before we get to that, though, and before we get to our pickups, I wanted to share something here real quick. Our friend Scott did another painting. He did those drawings, the vinyl community trading cards, if you will, a month or so back, right? And he sent this
Yep.
to you also, correct?
Yes, he did.
It is a painting of the two of us. Looks like here at the store, but getting ready for a podcast.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like it was when you were here in town and we would do the podcasts
Yeah.
in the store.
Yep. One on either side of the counter, and away we go.
There we go. And I can't escape the fact that whether it be in real life or on a podcast or now even in painting format, my hair just does not want to cooperate with anything. But Scott, as always, thank you very much. That is so cool. To be immortalized, if you will, in the painted form.
Whoever would have thunk that would happen, Jim?
You've got that Mona Lisa smile going, Steve.
Yeah.
Always fun, but yeah, thank you very much again, Scott, for putting that out for us. I got a new microphone, Steve. Let me see if I can get that to work right today. There we
Oh,
go.
fancy leather.
It
Yeah.
is a fancy one. The other one kind of busted out with everything else that was going on. Okay, so hey, pickups. Even though you're on vacation, you said you managed to find a record store.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not easy. I went to this place. It's in Frisco. There's a Frisco elevation 9,097 to find a record store. So almost a Timberline. A real nice guy, old school records. And he's been there around, well, the new place, he's been there less than a year, but he's had a record store up there around 5 years. And Frisco's about 18 miles before you get to Breckenridge. So really nice. But
Okay.
I did find, you'll appreciate that, Edie Brickell and the New
Oh yeah.
Bohemians.
Yep.
you had just recently picked that up, and I got to thinking, well, you know what, that is a pretty good album. I probably need to get that. So this is because of Jim. I bought this. And it's just in super good shape. It's really clean, and I mean, it's just beautiful shape.
Such a good
So
influence on you.
yeah, like I need to buy another record, and so but there's some other neat things in there. Our car was so jam packed. I had my oldest son and his wife were in there and all their stuff. So it wasn't like there was a lot of room for records.
Now, did they let you go into the record store by yourself, unsupervised?
Yes, they did. Actually, they came in, looked around, decided, okay, it's a record store, and off they
Off they
went.
went. Well, that's
Now,
cool. I'm glad you
I,
found
I,
that. That is. Go ahead.
I'll say I do have a bunch of other purchases, but they're at home.
Oh, you can show those off next week. We'll. I've actually got a few this week, so that'll help balance us out, and you can take over
Very
next week.
good.
But yeah, that Edie Brickell, it's a great album from that era, and I remember, yeah, it was about a month or two back. I did keep a copy of of that one for myself, but that's because I really couldn't put it in the store. It wasn't the greatest of shape, but yeah, that's all right. I'll enjoy it regardless.
Yes.
So
But then she married Paul Simon. We really never heard much from her.
yeah, I know that's right. She did do that.
Yeah.
So pickup wise on my side, okay. So I think last week when we talked about some of the Record Store Day pickups, the Black Friday
Mhm.
pickups from Record Store Day, I lamented that I was going to keep a King Missile happy hour had it come in. The long storied history of this King Missile happy hour release that was supposed to be Record Store Day Black Friday 2023. Then it was supposed to be Record Store Day April 2024. And now it finally came out here. And we got, I think I mentioned, I think 3 copies in the store for Black Friday. And I thought, there's no way that this is going to sell all the way through
Yeah.
on that. I'll get to keep one. But they did. And I'm happy for that. Folks got it. Lo and behold, I had been shorted 1 copy for whatever reason on my initial Record Store Day order from somewhere. And so one showed up this week. And I thought, okay, that's the sign. I'll get to keep my copy of King Missile, the Record Store Day release. And we bring that up here a little closer so folks can see that's, yeah, we're going to get censored in the cover. So I got to be kind of careful with that. The Record Store Day blue vinyl. There you go. The thing is, and here is the extended drama on this, Steve. The copy that showed up looks like it's been through the ringer. It's got some just real dings and creasing on the
Oh,
corner. And I thought, okay, so this must have fallen off a truck pallet or something. And they said, oh, here's one. Let's
yeah.
send it to Jim. There he goes.
Uh-huh.
But the other thing that is striking on this is the fact that the graphics, and I know you can't really see them here, but the graphics on the front and on the back are very kind of reminiscent of bootleg graphics now, where they just take this compact disc and they
Yeah.
blow it up and print it for this. It's real kind of hazy looking. It's pixelated. And I mean, even the Atlantic logo is pixelated. For all I would swear that this would be a bootleg copy coming in. So
Wow.
that was well, strike two, the condition of the cover, strike two being the look of it. Strike three, when I went to go play it, you're not going to see it here, but there is a significant edge warp on this that just started making my tone arm bounce around like it was on a roller coaster.
Wow.
So I we
Maybe it's not meant to be.
it's not meant to be, and it's a Record Store Day release, so I don't know if I'll ever get another one. I've already filed my little report with the distributor, and obviously I'll send it back because it's not playable. It's just not playable on there. So I this is just me wondering. I have no proof to back this up. This is just me spitballing right here. I wonder if these things were done a year ago because there's no date on the back. I
Yeah.
wonder if they were done a year ago and then something, maybe licensing or something along those lines, kept it from being released. Or maybe, just maybe, that initial run had defects a year
Mm.
ago. And so they backed it off. I don't know that that's actually the case or why it got delayed. I've not been able to find anything stating why it got delayed. But if that's the case, that would explain a little bit of it, I think. So
When the other King missiles came in, had you noticed the graphics on them, or really hadn't paid attention?
I didn't pay attention before Record Store Day Black Friday because I had so much going on. And
Yeah.
they were all in shrink wrap, and I actually didn't really get a good look at the graphics until it was out of the shrink wrap, and I could see that it just didn't look great. So whatever the case, that copy's going to go back, and maybe I'll find another one. We'll see what happens. The stock says it's depleted. At this point, it's not that big of a deal. If I get one, I get one. If I don't, I don't. I still have the songs digitally that I want off of that album. It just would have been a cool addition to have there. But that's just a very odd thing. Now, the other copies that I did sell, haven't heard that they were defective in any way. Nobody's tried to return them. I'm lucky that I was the one that got that one, I guess, that,
Yeah.
I found that it's warped. And then there was one of our other customers who said that he picked it up somewhere else and he loves it. And he said it sounds great. And he didn't say anything about that or any problems with it. So, okay, we'll see what happens.
Hmm.
Other pickups. I'm just kind of still cleaning out some stuff that I'd set aside a while ago. I kept a copy of The Cult and Electric. This is one of those things years ago. I got rid of my, let me find this here. I got rid of my copy of Love. I had a good original copy of Love, and I got rid of that. And I think when we opened the store, and then this one came through, and it's like, I like this. It's not as much as I like their other album, Love, but this one is good. It's got Wildflower, Little Devil on there, their cover, Born to Be Wild. But 1987 pressing on Beggar's Banquet, so it's always fun to get that one from The Cult. I'm happy to have that. Well, I don't want to say back in the collection, but I wish I had kept my other one. I have one of those red vinyl reissues of Love.
Yeah.
But that's fun to
Same
get.
here.
Okay, I've got another white label promo that has been added, and this is
Okay.
Fleetwood Mac and Penguin. Very happy to have this in there. I guess I'm working out to be a Fleetwood Mac completist without even really trying. This is the pre-Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, but Christy McVie and John McVie are on this along with Mick Fleetwood. So it's that I always kind of that to be that transitional period, if you will, of Fleetwood Mac, where they weren't blues, but they weren't that top 40 behemoth that they became with Stevie Nicks on there. So, and there's some good stuff in that era. It's just I think they're trying to find their
Yeah.
groove, so to speak, at this time.
Remember, boy, in the '80s, you go to any bargain bin, you'd have, that the one that album would be in the bargain bin. The one, It Smells Like, I think, what was it called?
Yeah.
It was that era of Fleetwood Mac that no one seemed to want. They were always just super cheap to find. Now, not so much.
Not so much. This one, I think it does pretty good. The white label promo. It looks like it tops out at $25 on Discogs. It's a 1973 pressing, so I'm still happy with it. I had another copy, and that has been put out, but the white label promo again that fits very nicely into the white label promo collection. Oh, Bob Welch is on that. I forgot that's part of his era on there too. So, all right, Michigan stuff. In addition to the Michigan collection, I had something from Michael Quattro once before in my collection, but I don't. It's hard to explain. This is the brother of Susie Quattro, the brother of the other Quattros that were in. The Passion or Pleasure Seekers. I'm sorry, the older precursor to Susie Quattro's solo stuff. I've got one here called the Mike Quattro Jam Band. He could never really capture, I think, the popularity that his sister or sisters had gotten to. And I even think that at one point I had almost a disco record from Mike Quattro in the collection.
Wow.
And this is on Evolution Records. The Mike Quattro Jam Band, there's some original stuff, but there's covers on here as well, including a Rachmaninoff's Prelude,
Oh my.
Detroit City Blues. But most notable on this is a cover of The Court of the Crimson King with Ted Nugent on guitar.
Oh,
It sounds good. I mean, this is a psych rock album from Quattro.
yeah.
Did I mention the year? What year was this? 1972. So it's a very interesting addition to the Michigan side of things. I got to give it another couple of listens on here, but you get the likes of Nugent, Pat and Nancy Quattro are also on this as well. John Finley, Terry Mullen on percussion. So just it's interesting. How's that?
So they didn't want to name their their family group, the Quattro family or something. You know, compute
Wow.
the Osmonds. Oh,
There'd be more than four, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then finally on the Michigan side, this one I can guarantee will not be in the Spotify playlist. I've already looked. And this is more of a personal thing. This is a Christmas album, and it's called The Warm Sounds of Christmas. Happy Holidays from WSGW Radio 79. It's Radio 790 now. This is a Saginaw radio station, AM. I've actually worked for these guys a long time ago when I did radio a little bit in town here. And this is one of those cookie cutter albums by the group. Let's see, I don't even remember what the group's. It's not even listed. It was one of those Bob Piper and the Associate Singers is what it's listed as on Discogs from 1976. So this is really just more of a local oddity. It's just very generic Christmas music, but it just happens to be from a radio station where I knew a lot of the folks that work there. I actually worked there myself for a time. The back of it's got one of the hosts of one of their older shows, and it's got holiday cookie recipes all over the back. Is one of the popular shows. Yeah, one of the popular shows that still exists on WSGW to this day is called Listen to the Misses, where they do household tips. And although that's not really a missus on there, but yeah, Fred's holiday recipe favorites. Yeah, that show is still going strong on SGW today. But I'd found one of these, I think, a couple of years ago, and I put it into YouTube on our channel, and then I contacted the guys I know over at SGW, and that led to me being a little on-air stint with them. We talked about this record and records in general, but I found another copy. Obviously, there are a few bouncing around locally. It's very, very cool to have because that's one of those personal ones that we like to have in the collection for the personal reasons, right?
Yeah, yes, and you have quite a few of those for
I
personal reasons.
do. I'm going to fill a whole crate full of, hey, I have these for personal reasons.
And the kids will look and go, I don't get it.
Yeah, but SGW, I worked for the station, but I did news on one of their sister stations for a while. But yeah, I've known those guys down there at SGW for a long time. So they're a great station. It's talk radio AM now, pretty much. So.
Right.
So those are my pickups. And as always, we'll put together a Spotify playlist of the ones I can find. How's that, Steve?
It's going to be a small playlist this week, isn't it?
Well, we'll include the start your off right stuff in there as well. How's that sound? But
right.
yeah, we'll get some of those stuff in there. Yeah, it's not going to be as eclectic of a playlist with your one record from Edie Brickell shining through. We'll have to add all the fun stuff in down the line the week after.
I got some humdingers.
Oh, I bet you do. I saw that Cure album in your video this morning, and now here's the influence. I've had several of those Cure albums come through. The indie exclusives are gone. The brand new Cure album, by the way. And a lot of folks are talking about it. It's going off the shelves here, and now all of a sudden I see you get it, and you played some sound samples. I'm like, damn it, Steve. I guess I might have to look at this one a little further, too.
Liked it, didn't you? Yeah. I was surprised, happily surprised, because as I mentioned on my show this morning, I really, I look at those records with trepidation. Think, what's it be like? Someone said the brand new Pixies is good. Well, the last Pixies was fine, but it's like I don't grab it. Now this Cure, I would grab.
And well, you did, and I'm glad you like. I'm sorry, I'm clicking on something here, but I'm glad you liked it, and I'm going to give it a deeper dig on Spotify. Hey, one quick side note on the Spotify stuff, and my daughter sent me a text. She's done her Spotify Wrapped, where the algorithm in Spotify shows you what you've been listening to. I'm afraid to look at mine because I put together the playlists using my Spotify account. So we'll see what that tends to do and what that looks like. But I suppose it is the first week of December as we're recording this. We probably should start thinking about wrap-ups. End of the year wrap-ups.
Yeah, someone mentioned that, I think, in our comments last week. You guys going to do an end of the year wrap-up. I've been working on mine, trying to decide my favorite albums for 2024, new albums. And I haven't even looked at the other stuff that I brought in, but
well, Discogs will help us sort that out, and we'll talk about some of the ways we can look back at 2024 in our year of collecting, so to speak. How's that sound?
There we go. Yes.
All
Okay.
right. Speaking of collecting, 2024 is wrapping up and 2025 is right around the corner. And what that means for, well, for me as a record store owner and for both of us as collectors, we got to start making some decisions. Thanks to the good folks over at Rhino Records. They're under that umbrella of Warner Brothers now. And every year in January, and then they repeat this in October, Rhino has kind of a special release thing happening. The October one, Rocktober, it's a given, they can call it there. But what do you call the one in January? Let's see, we got to come up with something clever, some way to start your year off right with Rhino, but you're listening. I know, let's call it start your ear off right. But regardless,
yeah,
it's a big release month coming up for Rhino. And we thought for today's episode, we'd run through these things and talk about them because there's a lot of stuff on here that I think a collector would want to dig into unless you've got the originals, but maybe you want their special vinyl versions of some of these. And there's some heavy hitting stuff on here too.
Rush. Rush.
Rush. We'll talk about the Rush stuff in a little bit.
I bet we will.
that is intriguing to me that they included Rush on this, and it boggles my mind. But the release dates for the Start Your Ear Off Right stuff, they did this in October with the Rocktober stuff, where they just absolutely front loaded the month and then took a couple of weeks off instead of, years past, you would get maybe 3 or 4 releases one week, 3 or 4 or 5 the next week, and they'd spread this out throughout the entire month of October or January. And now I'm looking at this and I see easily over half of the list is scheduled for release on January 3rd.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked at that. Very, very surprised that they just throw all that in. Especially, say you like, some of those groups. It's like, well, here they all are. Get them quick before they go.
And that's just it. Yeah, they do seem to sell. They get limited, so you're really putting a strain, I think, on the customer at this point to say, well, crap, I want all of those Dream Theater, and I want all of those ZZ Top and Ramones. What do? I'm going to be shelling out bucks in that first week alone. And then you take a couple weeks off, and there's one release on the 17th. There's one release on the 24th, and then they backload it on the 31st of January with another 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 releases at the end of the month. So
yeah.
I think I know why they're doing this. I can't obviously say, this is just my opinion, saying for certain, but the industry still is plagued with a few supply chain issues and stuff gets delayed a little bit. And I think that could be one of the reasons why they're front loading this, is just to say, okay, so we've got 10 releases, 12 releases coming out on January 3rd. If 5 of them don't make it, they'll come the next week or the next week. And then we can still say it's January. Whereas if it's the second week or third week of January and it doesn't make it, you're starting to push these things back into February. It loses, I think, a little bit of that marketing punch.
Sure. I like to say is, hey, kids, for Christmas, ask for cash. So that way you can buy October or January. What start the year off right. So
does that work just for kids, or can adult collectors ask for record cash as well?
Well, let's face it. If you're a collector, you're a kid at heart. So
there we go.
We're all kids.
Let's run through some of these. I've got some information on them. It's weird that the Rhino website doesn't have these. As of this recording, they did not have the stuff on the Rhino website. Some of it, I think, maybe they've put that on there by now, but when I was putting together the graphics for this, that wasn't the case. So right off the bat, the first week of January 3rd, that Friday, we're getting 3. There's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm missing one in the imagery here. I'm sorry. I didn't get all the images, by the way, but Dream Theater. We're getting Images and Words, Awake, Falling into Infinity, and Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory. I'm just picturing, I think, 3 of them on here right now. Dream Theater, I am well aware of Dream Theater, and being a Rush fan, you would think that I would probably have melded into a Dream Theater fan, but I've never I don't own any Dream Theater albums. I've never gotten into them. Maybe this is something I should look into, given their big releases now.
Not being a big Rush fan, I'm not that familiar with Dream Theater, and I think I used to have one of their CDs that it just didn't strike me. So I'm like, go, four? Why? Why four? I mean, I just throw a whole bunch out there real quick here, man. So for Dream Theater fans, you know what? Life is good.
It is, and I wish I could offer more in the way of advice on this, but this is one of my failings. Is I've come up short on Dream Theater. A lot of people that are into Dream Theater that come in the store say, "Man, you like Rush, you should start listening to Dream Theater." And I think at one point their drummer, I think it's Mike Pontneroy is the drummer's name, had been rumored to want to jam with Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson of Rush to resurrect. He was one of those names being bantied about as if somebody could replace Neil Peart, which they cannot, but just as a drummer to come in, and so these guys could continue to jam as Lee and Lifeson, or however they wanted to put it, or Rush with that first album. But yeah, the first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I see. Is the music like hard rock prog type
It
stuff?
is. It is. It's more modern prog, I think, is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
The Rush was a big influence on, I think, most of the folks in Dream Theater, from what I've read as well. So that I will give them a fair shake. How does that sound, folks? I've not
All right.
yet. I'll give them a shake. But yeah, Images and Words is the only single LP. I don't think I've got that one pictured here. Looks like the suggested retail price is going to be $25, which is a big theme, I think, for a lot of these Rhino releases.
Yeah.
The single LPs. The other ones, Awake, Falling into Infinity, and Metropolis, are all double LP, and they're all on clear vinyl. My notes say that they're 140-gram clear vinyl, and the list price for all the double LPs are $35, $34.98. So not too bad in the scheme of things for a double LP.
It is. So when we make our resolutions for 2025, maybe one of yours will be a Dream Theater completist.
That could be. I have to see how that goes. I'll ease myself into it. Maybe we can still get a bunch of
Okay.
these. Other ones I don't have images for that are coming out on the 3rd. There's a Fleetwood Mac live at the record plant. It looks like it was a concert recorded in 1974 on double LP transparent red vinyl for $35, and a Lindsey Buckingham 4 LP box set. That boggles my mind. Lindsey's great, but wow. It's called 20th Century Lindsey, and I don't have any other information on that one. The list price on that's coming in at $100. You got to be a big Lindsey Buckingham fan to do that. But yeah, again, the information on my distributor sites are just kind of petering in at this stage of game. Everybody's coming off of Black Friday, and so the distributors are playing catch up with that 1-2 punch of Black Friday, now the holiday season, and keeping things stocked up for that, as well as now getting ready for the January releases. So a little behind the ball, but I'll have more info on our channel coming up in the next week or two.
The track listing on that Fleetwood Mac would be kind of interesting to see where they're at, what stage, where their music's at, because I think that would be before Buckingham and Nicks, wouldn't it?
I think so. If it's an
Yeah.
older, record plant 74, it would most definitely have to be at that
So
point.
you just kind of wonder. So Peter Green's gone, so you don't have the deep blues. I'm not sure Bob Welch is still with them at that time or not. It could be. It'd just be interesting to see what the track listing is.
That transitional period that we talked about earlier of Fleetwood Mac,
Yeah.
from blues to otherwise. Now here's one. I think the next batch. These are on the 3rd also. Up your alley, Steve. How about 3 from the Ramones?
Well, I'm sure they all sound similar to the first 3 they did. But,
It's like
it
the AC/DC of punk rock.
is. It very much is. 1, 2, 3, go, and away we roll. But yeah, it is interesting to see Brain Drain, Halfway to Insanity, and Too Tough to Die.
Yep.
I can say I even ever bought those on CD. Yeah, I have a very large punk collection, but I never got deep into the Ramones. I have their first few albums. With you, I was able to get OGs on them. With these other ones, I'd have to kind of listen, see, do I want it that or not?
So okay, I'm looking at my notes here. Sorry about that delay, Steve.
Yeah.
The Ramones looks like they're all on black vinyl, single LP black vinyl, and all of them listing for $25. So yeah, the Too Tough to Die. Now those fall into the late '80s Ramones, correct, or mid '80s?
Yeah, I think so. It would have to be. It's definitely not their earlier ones. So, by now lineup changes are happening quite a bit. Of course they're all named Ramon, but just hey, we got a new Ramon guy in, and I can never keep up with that.
Let's see here. Other stuff. I think I've got this one too. An English Beat album showing
I used
up
to have
in
that.
here as well. Yeah, the special Beat service. This one coming on silver vinyl, listing for $25. So the English Beat or just the Beat, depending upon whether or not you want that the UK version of it, of those songs.
Yeah,
Not too familiar with this one. Their earlier stuff had that real ska feel to it, a ska
yeah,
punk feel to it. And this, I think they were starting to kind of level out with their sound a little bit, as I recall.
yeah. I agree. I'm not that familiar. I had, I think one album from the English Beat wasn't one that I really went back to try to
Yeah.
find and get again. Good band, and if that's your kind of thing, and maybe there is some ska in that. I don't know, but you get $25 with silver vinyl,
With
so
silver
that's
vinyl.
exciting. Yeah, I hand it to them for keeping these. A lot of these at $25. That really it goes against the trend that we see.
It goes against the trend. And I think we've talked about this before a little bit, where I think the record companies are realizing that in some ways they may be pricing some people out of this. And I think with a lot of these titles being reissues in some cases, 40, 50 years old now, the rights on these are pretty well clear cut for the labels themselves. I think a lot of the artists are still getting residuals by the looks and feel of that, but I
Sure.
think that they're more safe money makers that they can put them down to that $25 suggested retail price range and still make enough of a profit.
Yeah, agree.
Next up on the Start Your Ear Off Right, we're still in the January 3rd releases on these. We have got 5 albums, the first 5 albums from ZZ Top, all being reissued on black vinyl. And unlike the other ones, these are coming in at 180 gram black vinyl. So the price is going to be a little bit different on them. But yeah, we've got the ZZ Top's first album, Rio Grande Mud. Let's see. Tres Hombres is on there, Fandango, and Tejas. I think I said that right.
Didn't they just release these this last year?
It feels like they did, yes.
Yeah, I swear to God that they just put those out. I mean, it's pretty cool they did that. I go, okay, so we're releasing this stuff, and it's like, but there they are again. All right.
So there's got to be something special. I think these may be audiophile now that I'm thinking about it. Let me double check
Okay.
one. Let me double check one thing here if I can see the strip. They're 180 gram vinyl. It looks like they've got OBI strips from Rhino on there. Cut from, okay, all of these ZZ Tops now are cut from the original analog master tapes by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. They're pressed at Optimal Media. Heavyweight gatefold on the ones that are gatefold. Includes exclusive inserts with insights from Billy Gibbons and a Q&A with James Austin. All of them are limited editions. So I think the catch on these is the fact that they are remastered or repressed from the original analog tapes, and they're coming in at 180 gram. But that also is going to come at a price. We've jumped away from that $25 now. So each of these 5 ZZ Top are listing for $39.98. So $40,
Um,
$40 each on those. But I think
so
you're
if you
getting more of
just
an
bought the
audiophile.
other ones, yeah. So if you
Yeah.
just bought the other ones, now you can buy them again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's that, and we put additional things in there. That's where the collectors are. So, oh,
Yep. Yep.
because
Or
I'm looking,
the
oh, I still need that. And then I go, ooh, yeah, ooh, what's in there?
Yeah. Or the audiophile side. I think a couple of these did come out on colored vinyl within the past year or two as well. So, and I know that the OGs of this era ZZ Top can be a tough find in decent condition. I can really count on probably one hand the number of the ZZ Top's first album that I've seen come through the store here in the past 8 years. It's been less than 4 or 5, I think.
pretty sure I have one of them.
You probably do. I mean, it's a good album. This is, we talk about transitional periods like with Fleetwood Mac, and this is that early ZZ Top, which is just gritty Texas guitar blues. Not that I'm knocking their '80s top 40 stuff, but it's just not the same as this early bluesy stuff.
No, it's not. That 70s stuff is they have groove. They really get
Yep.
into that Texas groove that I think a lot of people really appreciate of them, before the synths.
And yeah, it's just like in the '80s, everybody you had to go top 40 at some point, didn't you? You had to earn. You wanted to be a little more top 40.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
that's
make money.
yeah. We've talked about this with evolutions of in Rush. They went through their evolutionary phase too, where they got into the synths, and the Stones did their phase, and any group with longevity is going to go through these different phases
Yeah.
as they work out what they're listening to. And Fleetwood Mac, ZZ Top, they're going to be the same. I'm not going to fault them for that. They're learning and they're
Nope.
growing and they're changing. But I don't know, if you just like that gritty guitar blues, that early ZZ cannot be beat.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to drive a beat up car your whole life? You need to have that huge album so you can get a really good car.
Do so all of that. What do we get? 4, 5,
15.
15 on January 3rd. You talk about front loading the month. Your ear will be off very right if you buy all 15 of your wallet will be off right if you get all 15 of those. So
Explain it to your significant others.
yeah, there you go. So then the campaign skips 2 weeks by the looks of it. And the next release isn't until January 17th. And that is a Grateful Dead, the only one from the campaign. And we're getting the Grateful Dead, the self-titled, but referred to as Skull and Roses. So 2 LP translucent lemonade vinyl. I'm not a Deadhead, Steve. I don't know where to. I can't talk. I can't really talk too much about this to folks, and I apologize. I can appreciate their position and their place in musical history, but I don't go past Working Man's Dead pretty much, or I think that's about it in my collection, to tell you the truth.
I have a big Dead box set that actually is worth pretty good. And I bought it just because I don't know much about the Dead. So if you don't know much about them, why not just buy a big expensive box set so you can learn? I mean, it's just the logic behind it all.
you've got the collector logic working, is what you're saying.
Yes,
We've talked about
buy
that.
a cheap one. Go to the budget bin and get one. No, hell no. What's that expensive one? I want that.
So next up, we're moving ahead yet one more week. Looks like the 24th now. It feels like January. Here we're not even into mid-December yet now. We're talking the end of January. But up next is another reissue from Yes, and this is Fragile. But this could be a special one because this is the Steven Wilson remix. Porcupine Tree, Steven Wilson, solo artist. He is just he's kind of got that magical touch for remixes. It feels like. He is such a fan, I think, first and foremost, or aficionado, but I think fan more than anything of that 60s, 70s prog rock, that he's giving these remixes an absolutely loving touch. And in some ways, he's really improving upon something you wouldn't have thought could be improved upon. A lot of Jethro Tull remixes, King Crimson remixes he's had his hand in, and a few Yes. And now this is the Steven Wilson remix of Fragile. From Yes.
Which should be interesting.
It should be. And I've never, and maybe someday I should. I don't know as if I've got any Steven Wilson remix stuff in my collection, but we've had some open stuff come through from time to time, and I've never really sat down. I don't have the time, unfortunately, to say, okay, I'm going to listen to the original version of the album. Then I'm going to listen to the Steven Wilson remix of the album and pinpoint exactly what the differences are and what's better, what's worse, what's different, and how it goes. I just don't have. Ain't nobody got time for that, Steve.
No, I've never done that either because I'd have to sit there and pay attention through 2 full albums without drifting off into something else. It's probably not happening.
So, Fragile. It's coming on green. They're calling it emerald green vinyl. Looks very cool. That one actually they're sticking to the price point back down to the $24.98 or $25 mark. for the Steven Wilson remix. I don't recall whether or not they've previously released this Steven Wilson remix of Fragile or not, but I mean, it's definitely a great Yes album.
Yeah, it's one that a lot of people will say is one of their favorites.
Yep, they would go to. All right, now we skip all the way to the end of January. Now all of the rest of these, Steve, are January 31st releases. They're cutting
Yeah.
way down to the back end of it there. So we got 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9 releases. There were 7, but they just announced a couple more. We'll wrap up on those 2. But you're going to have to help me out on this one. I'm drawing a big blank on that Alan Toussaint. Southern Nights.
Toussaint, yeah,
Toussaint?
I think it's Toussaint, but it's in French, and I've proven time and time again I have zero. I can't talk French, so
We're gonna get some comments lamenting and chastising us for lack of knowledge on Dead and this as well.
All I know is it's called Southern Nights, and I keep thinking of Glenn Campbell. That's
There you go.
his
Yeah,
Southern
we do.
Nights.
I don't think
That's
it
all that
is.
comes into my mind. Southern Nights.
Single LP black vinyl. This one's a 180 grams, so they boosted the price up a little bit. $31.98 looks to be the cost of that one. And then, what do you know about Eddie Hazel? Anything on that or what
Well,
that is?
he's just a phenomenal guitarist from Funkadelic, and I don't know this album, but I do know that he knows how to play guitar and make sounds out of it that a lot of people don't know how to do.
I do not have an image, but it's Eddie Hazel and Game Dames and Guitar Thangs. I would imagine it's Games, Dames, and Guitar Thangs. A black vinyl, 180 gram from Eddie Hazel, $31.98. Looks like it'll be the list price on that one when it comes out on the 31st.
Of all the albums, that's probably the one that has my greatest interest.
Okay, really, out of all this batch?
I just his guitar playing's great. You know, I'm a lover of Parliament Funkadelic, and again, you know, he was such an important part of it. So I have one of his solo albums, and it's just pretty crazy stuff.
So the Hazel has your interest, right? But really not the Rush. You're not even thinking about the Rush releases.
Well, yeah, I am thinking about it. I think one of those isn't that one of those is kind of a expensive one to get a original of, isn't it?
Actually, all of them tend to be, but yeah, the counterparts and Test for Echo, the originals, or even the 200 gram reissues can get into that $200 range. I've got one here in the store still. That's a whole nother discussion whether or not that's going to knock down the values of some of these because these had not been reissued before in a long time, rather. I'm sorry. And this is an interesting one because I saw a video from probably about a month ago. Rhino had a website exclusive, and I had some folks asking me here at the store, can you get a hold of this Rush box set that has just been announced? It's the 4 90s Rush albums, the later 90s Rush albums that are being reissued for the first time. They're in a box set. That's the only thing you can get. And I said, I'm sorry, they're not making them available to us. It's a Rush website exclusive, or I think that was through the Rhino website exclusive as well. And I've had a couple of customers that have been looking for these things, but the price point, especially on counterparts, like I said, has just been through the roof on them, and even triple digits for like a Roll the Bones. But then lo and behold, Rhino introduces this Rush box set out of nowhere a month or so back that has Presto, Roll the Bones, Counterparts, and Test for Echo. I saw a video on YouTube from a Rush fan who was doing an unboxing of it right after he got it. And I saw this just a couple days ago, so well after the fact. But he actually said, boy, I hope they don't reissue these things individually after I spent the money on the box set.
Doesn't that seem to be happening more and more? I've heard that with some other boxes. Well, even like that War one, they reissued all the albums after that, and I see it happening constantly. The Beatles, they put out the new Beatles box set. They reissued them individually, which I believe was cheap.
They know what they're doing. They know that this is coming down the pipe, but let's get that box set out there first and see. So
yes.
Now, from a Rush fan standpoint, I'll tell you, Steve, I like these albums. They're not high up on my list. If I ever had to be forced to sit down and rank my Rush albums, nobody's thought to do that to me yet, thankfully. But if I ever did, these albums would kind of go further down on the list. And their later stuff, like Clockwork Angels, their last album, and Snakes and Arrows, would actually be above these in my
Okay.
preferences. It's an interesting era for Rush. It was a tough era for them. I mean, they came off of just some tremendous success. A lot of experimentation on some of these, especially with Roll the Bones. I remember when Roll the Bones came out, there was just this furor among Rush fans that I hadn't seen since Eddie Van Halen played keyboards in 1984. People were freaking out about that. But in Roll the Bones, they stopped and they put a rap break in the middle of the title track, Roll the
Huh.
Bones, which in retrospect now it's cool. It's actually cool to see that in there. But at the time, I remember Rush fans were just like, "What the hell are you doing? It's Rush. You can't
Yeah.
rap in here." But it was just them experimenting. We talked about that, evolving and experimenting.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we could have you rank them. We could both rank our favorite Rush album, our Rush things.
How would you do that? It's like, oh, coming in at number 28.
Yeah.
Wait, they don't even
Let's
have that
see.
many, Steve.
Yeah. But what I have, I appreciate. So, but it
Well,
sounds like
good.
I won't jump out to grab these three. There may be better ones to get first.
So yeah, all of the Rush albums, all four of them being reissued as part of the Start Your Ear Off Right, are single LP black vinyl, so nothing special there. But I believe, are they all 180? They don't even say whether or not they're 180 gram. No, they can't be because they're all coming in at that $25 price point, 24.98. So my guess is those are all going to be 140 gram. And I don't know whether or not I can't see the box set being 180 gram vinyl because I would imagine that these are still going to be the same pressing stuff for
Yeah.
these the individual ones. So as a Rush fan, I'm happy that those are out there and folks are going to get exposed and that fans will be able to get vinyl copies of them without having to
Yeah.
pay through the nose. But as a Rush fan, also I'm like, well, this really kind of takes away the special collectability of my originals. So just a couple more on here. There's one from the Cult, Steve. I'm not familiar, even though I picked up that Cult album. I'm not really familiar with this one. This is
I'm not
Beyond
either.
Good and Evil, double LP on Coke bottle green vinyl and red vinyl. So one red, one green. $37, $36.98 on that one.
Wow.
And then finally, this was a late announcement, I believe. I just saw these come through, but there's two Stax albums coming out, Stax
Huh.
compilations that have been added to the Start Your Ear Off Right campaign. It's called Stax Volt, the complete singles. Volume 1 is 1959 through 1968, and Volume 2 is 1959. Oh, Volume 2, 1959 through 1968 as well. Not a lot of information available on these. I thought that I had some. We're looking at song listings on there. They're all double LPs, and so we're getting groups like the Veltones, Carla and Rufus, the Chips. So some great soul stuff on here. The Marquees,
Yeah.
the Triumphs, Barbara Stevens. Oh, looks like are these triple LPs? Holy smokes! Yeah, each of them are triple LPs. Now that I'm looking at that, I thought it was a double. Yeah, but each of these are triple LPs. So Otis Redding, Eddie Kirk is on the second one. Carla Thomas, Booker T and the MGs, Rufus Thomas. So these actually, those look pretty fun. Each of them a triple LP on black vinyl, and the list on those is coming in at $60 each, $59.98. So cool late edition to
Yeah.
the Start Your Ear.
I used to have that huge box set, Stax box set of singles. It was a CD box set. I mean, there was a ton of stuff in there. The amount of singles they put out was incredible. Great music.
Well, I am looking forward to a couple of these, and you've got your eye on one. Your ear. Are you going to start your
Yeah,
ear off on one
that's
of
my
them?
ear on one. Yes.
Very curious to hear what you folks think about the Rhino Start Your Ear Off Right campaign for 2025. It'll be here before you know it. Let us know in the comments. You can comment on the Spotify episode. You can comment on the YouTube episode as well. And you can always head over to our Facebook page and let us know what you think. Are you happy with this? It seems like a lot, Steve, but are you happy overall with the looks of this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I think there's a lot of stuff for a lot of different people to get excited about, which is, really what you want to see, have that happen. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, I hope that we end our year off right, and before we start our year off right before we get there. So I think that will do it for this week, sir. You've probably got to get moving and finish this family vacay up.
Yeah, everyone's boxing up and packing up right now because we get kicked out of here in 1 hour. So yeah, it's that. It's like Home Alone. Who are we going to leave here?
And they left Steve. They left Steve behind because he was doing a podcast. Oh.
Exactly.
Do you have the record stores mapped out on your way back home? I have to ask that.
Well, I have, but they're closed on Sunday.
Oh no. All right. Well, you have a great rest of time there, folks. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening to Guys Talking About Records, a vinyl community podcast. We'll do this again next week. I think Steve will have a big handful to show off then.
Well, I'll keep it limited.
So thanks again. Until next week, I am Jim, and I own a record store.
I'm Steve. I'm a record collector.
You folks have a great one. Steve, as always, thanks, man.
Hey, all's pleasure, Jeff. Everyone, bye.